Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chelik Aleph, and we will be learning today, Mir Hashem, Daf Kuf Mem Amid Aleph. We pick up near the bottom of Kuf Mem Amid Beis. We're continuing to learn Hilchas Tefillah. We have a little bit of unfinished business left in Siman Kuf Yud Gimel. So Kuf Mem Amid Beis, bottom line, Siman Kuf Yud Gimel Sif Ches. HaMispalel, somebody who is davening Shemona Esrei. Uba kenegdoi adam, and a person approaches opposite him. V'yesh loy tumunas avodas kechavim biyadoi, and he has some kind of a form or a picture of an avodas kechavim, some kind of idol worship. V'higia lamakim shesharchen boi, and now the fellow who is in the middle of davening reaches a point in davening where he needs to bow. So what's happening is somebody is standing Shemona Esrei. Now somebody approaches him. Somebody's coming towards him. Maybe this person is wearing a ring. And maybe the ring, let's say, has a picture of an Avodah Zarah. And now the person who's davening Shemona Esrei, let's say he's up to Moedim. So he's going to bow. Well, if he bows, and this person with this Tamuna, a picture or a form of an Avodas Kechavim, is standing opposite him, it will look as if he's bowing down to the Avodah Zarah. So says the Mechaber, therefore, Lo Yishche, he should not bow, Afal Pi Shelibai La Shamayim, even though in his heart and in his mind he's certainly bowing to Hashem, he has absolutely no intent to be bowing to the Avodah Zarah. Still in all, says the Mechaber, he should not bow. Says the Mishnah Berurah, the Mishnah Berurah is on Kuf Bam Aleph, Amid Aleph, Ois Katan Yud Daled, Biyadoi. This person has some kind of a tumuna, some kind of a form or a picture of Avodah Zarah in his hand. Ayin b'Magen Avram. Chavetz Chaim says, take a look at the Magen Avram, b'Masha Kosav. So I forgot for a moment. The Chavetz Chaim doesn't spell out what the Magen Avram says. For a moment, I forgot what the Magen Avram is talking about. The Magen Avram suggests that if the person who has the picture of Avodah Zarah is a sar literally means some kind of a minister or a prince. So this is a government official, but not just, I'm not talking about some bureaucrat. He's a person of respect that people would bow to. People would, maybe take off their hats and, bow to show respect. So the Magen Avram suggests that if it's such a person, then perhaps the person davening Shemona Esrei could bow, because everybody who sees it would understand that he's bowing out of respect to the Sar. He's not bowing to the Avodas Kechavim, and he's not bowing to the Sar either. He's not worshiping the Sar, but it's like a curtsy to the queen, now to the king. You're not worshiping the king or the queen, it's just a show of respect. So again, the Magen Avram says, if the person approaching the one davening Shemona Esrei is a Sar, and he has a picture of an Avodas Kechavim in his hand, then suggests the Magen Avram, maybe it's okay to bow, because everybody understands you're only bowing out of respect for the Sar. But says the Mishnah Berurah, Aval b'Magen Giborim, in the Sefer Magen Giborim, Katsav, he writes, Shechalila lahakel bazeh, chalila, to be makel on such a thing, ubefrat be'es tefillah, and certainly when you're davening. Ois Katan Tezvav, Afal Pi, the Mechaber said, even though in his mind and in his heart he's bowing down to Shamayim, certainly not to the Avodah Zarah, still he should not bow down. Why? Because it appears as if he is bowing to the Avodas Kechavim, and we don't want even Chas v'Chalila the appearance of bowing to Avodas Kechavim. Okay, now Kuf Bam Aleph Amud Aleph, last word on the top line, the final sif of Siman Kuf Yud Gimel, says the Mechaber, Ein lahaisif al ta'arav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We do not add on to the descriptions and the praises of the Rebbeinu Shalom, Yoser mehakel hagadol hagibar v'hanoira. When we describe the Rebbeinu Shalom in Shemona Esrei, we say gadol, great, gibar, mighty, noira, awesome. Those are the words in English that we use. But those are the three words that we use, gadol, gibar, and noira. Says the Mechaber, we're not supposed to add on any additional ones. V'dafka b'tfila, but this is only true in Shemona Esrei, because we don't change the format that the Chazal made. A matbeah is literally a stamp. The Chazal gave their stamp of approval. They made this matbeah. They stamped this coin. What we're supposed to say is Akel Agadol Gibar V'Hanoira. So we don't add on to it. Aval b'tachanunim oy b'koshois u'shvachim she'adam oimer me'atzmai. But if you're not davening Shemona Esrei, so it's not pshat that you're davening Shemona Esrei and you're adding on to the words of Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. Let's say somebody is davening his own personal tefillah. Somebody wants to daven to the Rebbeinu Shalom and he wants to use words that come out of his own heart. So he's composing his own tefillah to the Rebbeinu Shalom. If he wants to use words other than Gadol Gibar and Noira, he's allowed to. Less lanba, that would be okay. Nevertheless, the Mechaber ends off with a very interesting concept. He says the truth is, even if you're making your own tefillah, don't make up your own phraseology, don't make up your own words. Do you even begin to have a concept of what type of words you should use to praise the Rebbeinu Shalom? The Rebbeinu Shalom and his greatness is so far removed from us that a person can't just come up with his own phraseology to use when praising the Melech Malchei Hamlochim Kutchabrichu. So what should you do? You should quote psukim. If you reach into Tehillim and you quote psukim that were composed by David HaMelech, if you reach into, Svarim that were composed by Shlomo HaMelech, Keheles, Mishlei, if you quote words that were composed by other Sifrei Tanakh, by Nevi'im, so now you're quoting psukim, you're using words that were composed with Ruach HaKodesh. But for you to make up your own words in praise of the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Mechaber suggests that is not really appropriate. Okay? There is no Mishnah Berurah here on this Siftes. So now we turn to a new Siman Kuf Yodalad. Din Haskaras Haruach V'Geshem V'Tal. These are certainly halachas that are very much Negei L'Maisa, where people come up with shilos all the time. The halachas that govern the mentioning of Ruach, that is the Rebbeinu Shalom's power to bring the wind, to cause the winds to blow, all of the air streams that travel across the world. The Geshem, the power of the Rebbeinu Shalom to bring rain, the Tal, and dew. So we know that in Shemona Esrei, we, depending on the season, we say Mashiv Ruach U'Morid HaGoshem, or not. Nusach Sfard says Morid HaTal when they don't say Mashiv Ruach U'Morid HaGoshem. We're going to see later, we're also going to talk about She'elas HaGeshem, where we ask the Rebbeinu Shalom for rain. That's in the bracha of Baruch Aleinu, the same Talamat Levracha. Over here, we're speaking about Mashiv Ruach U'Morid HaGoshem and Morid HaTal. Says the Mechaber Sif Aleph, Maschilin loymar bebracha shniya Mashiv Ruach U'Morid HaGoshem. We begin to say in the second bracha of Shemona Esrei, right? The bracha of Gevuros, the bracha of Mechaya HaMesim. We begin to recite within the second bracha of Shemona Esrei, Mashiv Ruach U'Morid HaGoshem. When do we start to say it? B'tfilas Musaf, by the Musaf Shemona Esrei, Shal Yom Tov HaAchroin Shal Chag. Musaf of the Yom Tov HaAchroin Shal Chag, which is Shmini Atzeres. So Musaf of Shmini Atzeres, that's when we begin to say Mashiv Ruach U'Morid HaGoshem. Ve'en Poiskin, and we don't stop saying Mashiv Ruach U'Morid HaGoshem in Shemona Esrei, ad tfilas Musaf shel Yom Tov Rishon shel Pesach, until Musaf on the first day of Pesach. Okay, let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. It says the Mishnah Berurah is cut in Aleph. Bebracha Shniya. First thing that we see here is that where do we mention the power that the Rebbeinu Shalom has of controlling the winds and controlling the rain? Where do we insert mention of it in Shemona Esrei? In the bracha of Tchias HaMesim. What does rain and wind have to do with the gevuros, with the might of Tchias HaMesim? Says the Mishnah Berurah cut in Aleph, Mipnei sheyesh ba Tchias HaMesim, because the second bracha is the bracha of Tchias HaMesim. V'hageshamim heim chayim la'olam ki Tchias HaMesim. Rain brings life to the world, the same way the Rebbeinu Shalom is Mechai HaMesim, and he brings life to a lifeless corpse. So too the rain brings life to arid, dead land. So there's an aspect of Tchias HaMesim in rain, and that's why we mention the Gevura of Geshamim. We mention it in the bracha Mechai HaMesim. Now the Mechaber said, when in the year do we start to say Mashav Urach Amar Dagoshem? So the Mechaber told us we start to say Mashav Urach Amar Dagoshem by Musaf on Shmini Atzeres. Why Musaf by Shmini Atzeres? Says the Mishnah Berurah. The truth is, really, we should have started mentioning the Gevura of rain and the praise of rain. We should have started mentioning it on the first day of Sukkot, Sheni Doidin by Alamayim, because we know the Mishnah tells us Ubachag on Sukkot Nidoinin Al Hamayim. That's when we're judged for water. So if we're judged for water on Sukkot, why are we waiting to Shmini Atzeres, all the way at the end of Yom Tov, to praise the Rebbeinu Shalom for his ability to bring rain? We really should start mentioning Mashav Urach Amar Dagoshem on the first day of Sukkot. Why are we waiting all the way till the end? Ella, however, says the Mechaber, says the Mishnah Berurah, Lefi she'hageshamim heim siman klala b'chag HaSukkos, because we have to remember that it's true that the rainy season starts on Sukkot, and it's true that on Sukkot Hashem judges us for rain, but we don't want to mention Mashav Urach Amar Dagoshem on the first day of Yom Tov, of Sukkot, because we don't want rain during the Yom Tov of Sukkot. If we get rain during the Yom Tov of Sukkot, we can't eat in the Sukkah. So rain is a siman klala on Sukkot itself. Therefore, we wait until Shmini Atzeres so that the 7 days of Sukkot are over. Then we could start to then we could start to praise Hashem for the Gevura of Geshamim. See it inside here. It says the Mishnah Berurah, it is because rain is a siman klala on Sukkot, because you can't eat in the Sukkah when it's raining. Therefore, ein maskirin hageshem. Therefore, we don't mention Mashav Urach Amar Dagoshem ad avar shivas yimei shiva b'sukkah, until the 7 days of eating in the Sukkah are gone, till after Hoshana Rabbah. Continues the Chavetz Chaim and he says, "V'roi haya min adin lahaske miyad b'leil yom tov achron." Okay, so we've now established that we do not say Mashav Urach Amar Dagoshem on the first 7 days of Sukkot, because then it's a siman klala, because we can't eat in the Sukkah. Fine. So we're going to wait until Shmini Atzeres. But why do we wait until Musaf of Shmini Atzeres by day? Why don't we start saying Mashav Urach Amar Dagoshem Ma'ariv, the night of Shmini Atzeres, the first tefillah after Sukkot, the Ma'ariv of Shmini Atzeres? That's when we should say Mashav Urach Amar Dagoshem. Answers to Chavetz Chaim, Ella, Lefi she'betfilas arvis ein kala am bebeis hakneses, because it was a fact back in the day that not everybody came to shul for Ma'ariv. During the week, people didn't come to shul for Ma'ariv. They davened Ma'ariv out in the Sadeh. They davened Ma'ariv where they were working in the fields. And then everybody, that wouldn't answer the question. People didn't always daven Ma'ariv b'tzibur, let's put it that way. And what it says in the Rishonim is that there were Bali Malacha, they were Trudim. Maybe they already went home after a day of work, and they couldn't go back out for Ma'ariv. So it was very common that not everybody would come to Ma'ariv. So what? How does that affect this halacha? So the Mishnah Berurah says, Lefisha b'tfilos arvis ein kol ha'am bebeis hakneses. Not everybody came to shul for Ma'ariv. So now what's going to happen? The people that come, not everybody remembers precisely when you're supposed to start saying Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim. Let's remember, they didn't have necessarily Machzorim and Sidurim. So those people who will go to shul, Ma'ariv and Shmini Atzeres, so the Gabbai will give a clap, and the Gabbai will say Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim. So everybody's going to say Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim. But all of the people who are davening b'yechidus at home, many of them are not going to realize that tonight you start saying Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim, so they're not going to say it. What's the problem? The problem is that now Klal Yisrael is going to be made agudois. We have, in the Torah it says, loisis goidedu. Literally, it's talking about, that's the isser of cutting off your hair, of cutting your head over mourning for a mace. But we darshed it from the pasuk loisis goidedu, al tasa agudois. Klal Yisrael is supposed to be unified in their avodas Hashem. We don't want one group doing this way and one group doing that way. So we don't want that by Ma'ariv of Shmini Atzeres, Klal Yisrael is going to go to David Ma'ariv, and half the people are going to be saying Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim, and half the people aren't. That's agudos. So therefore, we don't start Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim at night when a lot of people don't come to shul. V'lama ein maskirin b'shachris. So okay, so that's why we don't start saying Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim Ma'ariv. But why don't we start saying Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim the morning of Shmini Atzeres by Shachris? Why are we waiting till Musaf? So the Mishnah Berurah says, Yeshe Kasru, there are those that write that the reason is Nesha Osir Lahaskar Ageshem Ad Sheyachriz Ashliach Tzibur or Yashamish Bekol Ram Moirid Ageshem Kaidam Atfila. We're going to see in Sif Beis that you're not allowed to say Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim until either the Chazan or the Gabbai makes an announcement and says Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim. Now, by Shachris, when are you going to make that announcement? You're not allowed to make the announcement in the middle of Birchas Kriya Shema, and you're not allowed to make the announcement at the end of Birchas Kriya Shema before Shemona Esrei, between Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael and Shemona Esrei. You're not allowed to be mafsik over there, because you have to be masmich geula l'tfila. That was the whole Siman Kuf Yud Beis. So, by Shachris, there's no opportunity to make an announcement of Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to say, we'll make the announcement before Baruch Sha'amar? We'll make the announcement before Pesukei de Zimra? You don't make an announcement for what people are going to say in Shemona Esrei 20 minutes before Shemona Esrei. So you can't, the proper place for the announcement is right before Shemona Esrei. But you can't do that by Shachris, because you can't make a hefsek between Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael and Shemona Esrei. So that's why we don't say Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim by Shachris. Let's see it inside. Yeshe Kasru, there are those that write, B'mnei she'asur lahaskir hageshem, ad sheyachriz Hashem tzibur hayashamish b'kol ram moed haGoshem. You're not allowed to mention Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim in your Shemona Esrei until there's an announcement from the Gabbai or from the Chazan, kaidam atfilah, before davening. Ukidol kameh, like we're going to see in Sif Beis. V'zeh yef shalachriz b'shachris. And you can't make the announcement by Shachris, mimnei shetzarach lisbach geula l'tfilah, because you have to be masmich geula l'tfilah. V'oitam achar ayin b'taz. The Taz gives another reason why you don't say it by Shachris, and that is that the Taz says a funny thing. He says, if you're going to say Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim by Shachris, then people are going to think that really you're supposed to start by Ma'ariv. In other words, if we're doing it by day, why don't we do it the night before? If we didn't do it by Shachris and we do it by Musaf, so then people understand, obviously we're postponing it to later in the day for some reason. But if you say it by Shachris, then people are going to reason, if they're saying Mashav Ruach Mar Nagoshim by Shachris, we all know the day starts the night before, some stomach they said it by Ma'ariv too. And then again, that's going to feed into the problem of some people saying it by Ma'ariv and some people not saying it by Ma'ariv. So that's the reason that the Taz brings. Says the Mishnah Berurah, let's say we come up with a shaila. somebody is davening b'yechidus, let's say, and he remembers that Shmini Atzeres is when we start saying Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim. So he's davening Ma'ariv Shmini Atzeres b'yechidus, and he says Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim. Does he have to repeat Shemona Esrei because he wasn't supposed to start until tomorrow by Musaf? Says the Mishnah Berurah, no, because like we've seen, really it would be appropriate to say Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim by Ma'ariv. We don't do it because of agudais. Really, it would be appropriate to say it by Shachris. We don't do it because the Chazan, the Gabbai, isn't able to announce it first. But really, it would be appropriate. So if you said Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim by one of those Shemona Esreis, you do not repeat Shemona Esrei. Ois Katan Gimel, Ad Tfilas Musaf. You don't say Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim until Musaf. Oh, I'm sorry. This is going on when we stop saying Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim. The Mechaber said we stop saying Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim by Musaf, the first day of Pesach. So now we're going to come up with the same question. If it's no longer appropriate to say Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim on the first day of Sukkot, incidentally, why isn't it? Because Pesach is Chodesh HaAviv. Pesach is in the spring season. So that means that the rainy season has ended. So it's not appropriate to say Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim on Pesach. But that begs the question, so why are we saying it Ma'ariv the first night of Pesach, and why do we say it Shachris the first day of Pesach? The Mechaber says we don't stop saying it until Musaf, the first day of Pesach. So the Mishnah Berurah says, like Katan Gimel, Hatam de'id Paiskin mi ba'erev, the reason we don't stop saying it by Ma'ariv, the night before, Hugam Ken Kanal. It's the same reason that we just saw in the previous Sif Katan, why we don't start saying Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim, Ma'ariv Shmini Atzeres. Why? Shelo yeh davar me'urev beineim, shezeh maskir v'zeh eina maskir. Because again, if we make a change in the davening by Ma'ariv, the people in Shul will know about it. The people in Shul, not in Shul, won't know about it. So you're going to have some people saying Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim, some people not. Can't do that. But now when we stop saying Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim by Musaf, Yedu HaKol Al Gidei Shliach Tzibur HaShamish Shamak is Kedr Tfilas Musaf Marinatol. By if we stop saying Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim by Musaf, the first day of Pesach, everybody will say the same thing. Why? Because the Gabbai is going to get up before Shemona Esrei and he's going to give a clap and he's going to say Marinatol. So everybody understands if we say Marid Atol, we don't say Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim. Shachrazas Askaras Atal, the announcement to say Marid Atol, Siman hu lehem la'afsakas Askaras Hageshem. That serves as a reminder also to no longer say Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim. Says the Mishnah Berurah, V'zel l'minik Sfarad, this is true according to Nusach Sfarad, Shenoyagin loymar Marid Atol b'mkay Marid Nagoshim b'may Sachama. Where they say Marid Atol when they stop saying Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim. Avol, says the Chavetz Chaim, b'Medina Isenu, in our regions, meaning where they daven Nusach Ashkenaz, Shein Noegin Loime Marid Atol b'may Sachama, where they don't say Marid Atol. V'yev shalachakviz b'loshen zeh, so you're not going to make an announcement Marid Atol. Ulahakviz lehedya sheyifsiku meloymar Marid Nagoshim gam kinei nochain. So you'll say, okay, so let the Gabbai make an announcement before Musaf, do not say Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim, right? He can't say Marid Atol, because we're dealing with Nusach Ashkenaz, they don't say Marid Atol. But says the Chavetz Chaim, so what's the problem? Let him make an announcement, do not say Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim. Says the Chavetz Chaim, that's inappropriate. It looks like we are refusing rain. We're making a big announcement. Do not say Mashav Baruch Amar Nagoshim. That's as if we're saying, we don't want rain. We're protesting against rain. And that's inappropriate. Al der sha'amru, like it says in the Gemara in Tainus Achav Beis Amid Beis, Ein mispalalin al roiv toiva. We do not daven because we're getting too much of a good thing and we want to refuse a good thing. Geshem is a good thing. Yes, is there such a thing as too much rain? There is. But we never want to be mispalal not to have rain, because rain is necessary for the life of the world. Because of this, The Rabbah actually says that you shouldn't stop saying Mashav Ruach Amar Nagashim until Mincha on the first day of Pesach. Because then everybody will hear by Musaf that the Shliach Tzibur doesn't say Mashav Ruach Amar Nagashim in Chazaras Hashatz. So that will serve as a reminder to let everybody know we're not saying Mashav Ruach Amar Nagashim anymore. And then by Mincha, nobody will say Mashav Ruach Amar Nagashim. Avo b'tfilas Musaf, kol hakol v'gam Shliach Tzibur, maskir nageshem b'tfilas Lachash. But by the Shtilish by Nesri of Musaf, everybody should say Mashav Ruach Amar Nagashim, Kedai shelo yehi davar mu'urev ben hatzibur, so there should not be a problem of loisis gaidu. Let's say on Pesach, by Ma'ariv of the first night of Pesach, you didn't say Mashav Ruach Amar Nagashim, so you stopped saying it early. You weren't supposed to stop saying it until tomorrow by Musaf, but instead you stopped saying it by Ma'ariv of the first night. If you did that, says the Mishnah Berurah, that's okay. You don't have to repeat Shemona Esrei, because really what you did is appropriate. Really, it's appropriate not to say Mashav Ruach Amar Nagashim. We say Mashav Ruach Amar Nagashim because of practical problem, but it's okay. You don't have to repeat Shemona Esrei. Thank you so much for joining me for Liman HaTorah. Discuss of Liman HaTorah should be begging on God's Klal Yisrael. The Rebbe should say Yeshua's and force Parnasset Shidduchim to all those in need. We should be Zaricha to see the Bias Gal Tzedek Be'erev Yameinu. Amen. Be well.